information session that is for retirees from the Public Service Superannuation Act, which we refer to as the PSSA. We have Blaine Higgs, who is our Minister of Finance and who is also the Governor of the PSSA pension plan. We have Conrad Ferguson, who is the actuary with Morneau Chappelle. And we have Pierre-Marcel Desjardins, who is a PhD in economics at l'Université de Moncton, and also a member of the Task Force on Protecting Pensions. We know there are members of other pension plans in the room here today, and we welcome you, but we just want to let you know that this is specifically, the presentation is addressing issues around the proposed shared risk pension plan specifically to the PSSA, because we haven't started working on any of the other plans.
If this is for information purposes only, I do not want the government to reflect in debate in House, etc., that they have consulted with us, because they have not.
So with that, we'll proceed, and I would ask the Minister, Minister Higgs, to say a few words.
Well, good afternoon and welcome. We're certainly off to a lively start, and I guess that's to be expected. This is obviously a topic of great concern to all of us, and it's one that, regardless of what you want to call this meeting, it is one that we want to have a good, fair, and open dialogue. You can't hear me? So you might not, so Conrad, you're going to have to stand up, I guess, and you've got a mic. You're already mic'd for this as you go forward. So what I started to say is that, you know, thanks for being here. I know it's an emotional topic. It is one for all of us that we need to look at how we're going to protect for future generations the pension program that is so valuable to each of us. These challenges are not unique to New Brunswick. I don't think anyone would deny that. And what we're looking at in our situation in this province is how do we manage it going forward? How do we make it fair and equitable for future generations as well as the current retirees? And how do we be sure that is funded for the future? I mean, that is the goal. It's simple as that.
We may have French and English, and we don't have to exactly what Mr. Higgs is saying. What he's telling us, and what he just said is that we have a pension plan, we paid into it, we had no choice of doing that. We went down the road with that whole thing. We went through how many years? 20, 30, 40, 50 years of doing that. And what, just to translate what he said, and what he just completed said was, now I'm going to take it away from him. He's, without any question, what he said is, I'm going to grab your pension that you worked all those years for on behalf of the provincial government. And that's what he's trying to do to us. And that's exactly what he just said, and that's why you've got to be really careful with the rest of the presentation. Anyway, that's my translation for what Mr. Higgs just said.
Well, you want... Maybe you'd like to come back and repeat that in French. I know. Listen, we can either derail the meeting. Let's just settle down a minute. We can either derail the meeting, and we can turn it into we can turn it into an emotional show. The mic's not on, sir. The mic's not on.
It doesn't matter.
We can turn it into an emotional show, and we can all be heroes as part of that, or we can just do the presentation and try to answer the real question.
This whole process has been without two sides involved in it. Anybody that sat on any of these committees are government-paid employees by the elected government of the day. There's no representation, and there hasn't been since day one for retirees.
that we had to pay in. We had no choice in this. We had no choice as far as paying into it. We had no choice about how much it was going to be. We had no choice about where it's going to be invested. So for some reason, there's a shortfall or something. Now, I don't know if it really is or not, because there's different ways you can look at that. You know yourself, there's all these things. We don't really care what they are. But for some reason, there's a bit of a shortfall. So they said, okay, we didn't do a good job, so we want to come to you guys, you retirees here, and do something about it. That's one thing I hear you say. Which we totally disagree with, because we're out of the workforce and we are not back in. Now, let me just finish interpreting the minute. Je peux faire en français si tu veux, je vais faire en anglais. Okay.
Either way.
Okay. The other part that I'd like to just make sure that in an interpretation point of view is that you're talking about in your own question and answers, the information that the government sent out, they're saying that the cost of living, we're going to lose 25%. That's the best case scenario, just so anybody understands. Best case scenario, we lose 25% of the cost of living increase. Just so you know in dollars and cents what that means, in case there's any question, that means you'll lose 2 years of salary, 2 years of income over a 25-year period, and that's based on their numbers. Not maybe Mr. Ferguson, I don't know, but it's maybe it's Mr. Hayes, whoever did the numbers. And I did the numbers, and I can show you. That is the best case. So that means if you've got a $21,000 a year pension, what you're going to lose is $40,000 or more. That's in the best case. And if something happens that the cost of living goes up more, or if something happens that we don't get that much, which you've also suggested that we might not get, it can go from $40,000 easily to $50,000, $60,000, $100,000. So it's real money. Those are real numbers, and they're based on the numbers that's been presented by the government. So I appreciate the opportunity.
I thank you for your comments. I understand the strong feelings, because you were expecting to get full pension, full CPI, and I'm telling you that under a shared risk plan you would not. I do understand that fully, and I will not argue with you or debate with you on that. But I said I would give you facts, and I have to correct you on one thing. The best scenario is not 75% of CPI. The best scenario is what's in that blue space, that if there's a return in the fund that's above inflation, 4%, it's the same deal. It may not be the same each and every year, but over time it catches up. There is 25% chance that it will be what you explained there. Now the average pensioner is 70 years old, okay, so 20-year period would be reasonable. And then there's an 18% chance that it's going to be less than that. And I understand, I hear you, and I'm not arguing with you on that. The risk, I'm almost finished, sir, so if, okay, you're ready, great. The very bad chance, okay, the very bad scenario is 2% chance of getting in a space where investment returns are so bad, you're below 1.5% above inflation for 15 years. So the kind of scenarios that fall in there, the only example I can give you that fits in the Canadian context is the Great Depression. In summary, your pensions are not being de-indexed in the sense that we're going to roll back some of the indexing you've already received. The proposed plan design gives indexing in the vast majority of scenarios, but may not be at the level that was in the PSSA as it stands now. Survivor pensions are not being cut. They're treated the same as everybody else when it comes to indexing and the bad economic scenario. Your pension will be more secure under NSRP because the money isn't spent in the bad time. Through indexing, it's left in the fund to help the fund recover and rebound. Your pension will continue to compare favorably with other public sector plans. Finally, if I may just a few closing comments, I'm almost done. If I may. We're now at the end, as I said, retirement security is a critically important issue for every one of us. And you're here today, you're interested in your retirement security, and it's rightfully so. As a result, a retirement program based on hoping for the best in the future should not be enough for you, nor should it be enough for government. The future is unknown, and it will surprise us. Always has, always will. We need to think and plan this unknown future so we are prepared for whatever comes. I hope that through my remarks we have an improved understanding of what the shared risk plan is all about and the current situation of the PSSA and how it might operate in the future. I really, really thank you for listening and giving me my chance to do my presentation. It is very much appreciated.
And I have one request of Minister Higgs, and that would be that members of the Pension Coalition become active members of whatever process you're going to use, because frankly, sir, nobody believes what the other side says, and unless there is equal representation from our group, everything is just going to continue on the way it is.
We do want to develop a process here that's meaningful and we can get a good exchange of information and dialogue going forward. Thank you.
What I learned about the Dutch model worries me because they have never had an increase. They had a 107% efficiency plan where they would start paying 1% indexing, and when they got to that, they said, oh no, that's not quite enough, let's put it up to 114, which explains why you set yours at 115, I think. But I really don't see, if that's the most successful model in the world using it, and they are not achieving what they hoped, with our watered down version, I don't hold much hope. Anyway, thank you.
But I have tried finding out about this through MLAs, I have tried non-government members, I've tried civil servants, and there just is not a consistent understanding or ability to communicate what's going on, which is frankly unacceptable. If these 20 questions I have, who do I ask? Do I ask to meet with Jamie? Who do I go to? My MLA can't tell me.
In today's situation, you can leave them here and we will come back to you with the answers, but there is a website that has been set up for questions.
So some of the things that Conrad, you've said, as an example, survivor benefits will not be changed, and that indexing will depend on the returns in the plan. Is that a forever going in statement, or will those decisions over time be able to be made by these trustees? And so when you're saying that there will be rules and regulations that these trustees will follow, I guess what I'm wondering is how broad their decision-making powers will be, and what oversight other than the superintendent of pensions will there be? And secondly, how will these people be elected? Will there be representation from retirees on this board of trustees?
A shared risk plan is established with a document that's called a funding policy that the trustees must adhere by. And this funding policy spells out how much money can be spent on indexing based on certain rules. They're all written before the plan is set up, so that when the funding level exceeds 105%, a certain amount of money is set aside for improvements for the next January 1st, which is indexing as the first priority. If you get the full CPI, then the money stays in the fund for the next year. And then the next year you verify the funding level again, and if it's higher, then there's more money available for indexing.
And I understand that, but specifically, who writes this initial document? But more importantly, how does it get changed in the future?